Welcome back, Irish fans, to Breaking Down Braves Boys podcast. Notre Dame landed a big commitment earlier this week, and now we're getting to start to talk about real regular season basketball games involving Notre Dame. So, big week for Notre Dame men's basketball and for us as a podcast. Brought Trevor on for the first game preview of the year. We're not going to do an individual preview for every game because, frankly, that was a massive grind for me last year, and I don't have that kind of time this year. But we're definitely going to address every game. We'll probably do a show every Monday, recapping the last week and then previewing every game. I'm also going to do a post-game show for every game, and Trevor's going to do the one for this game. So look forward to that. Those shows are definitely going to be fun, especially if Notre Dame can pull off some big wins. So definitely tune into that and subscribe for some Notre Dame men's basketball content this year. Going to have full coverage of the team, but to start it off, I didn't bring Trevor on to the Van Allen Lubin commitment show. So, Trevor, let's get your thoughts on Notre Dame's top 100 commitment real quick before we go into the game.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't bring me on for it because I truthfully don't have much to offer. I like the fact that he is super versatile, athletic. I think he's somebody that comes right in and can play right away. I hate to say it, but I would take him over Elijah Taylor and Matt Zona right away as well. So that's about all I got. Can't believe we got another guy like this. So
yeah, and I also wanted to add one more thing I forgot to put in the podcast that I thought was important. I think it just makes Notre Dame so much more athletic, and they're trending in that direction. We actually talked about that off air, so
yeah,
Trevor has more to offer than he gives off, I think. Ben Lubin, if you look at the athletes on the 2019-20 team, it's like TJ, Rex, Prentice, Dane, Nate. I mean, it's largely the same guys.
Jogo.
Yeah, Jogo, Mooney, Durham. And then you look at this year's team and next year's team even, JJ, Ben Lubin, Blake maybe, hopefully.
Night and day, dude.
JR, Tony Sanders, Elijah Taylor. It's athletes from most of the roster is full of like really good athletes. Notre Dame hasn't had that a lot in the past. So just wanted to touch on that. Notre Dame's just trending into a more athletic direction, which is never a bad thing in college basketball. So we'll move on to this week's game. Cal State Northridge is Notre Dame's opener. They come to Purcell Pavilion on Saturday at noon. Notre Dame football plays that night, so it shouldn't overlap if you guys are trying to make excuses to not watch this one. But should be exciting. Notre Dame's opener. Cal State Northridge is not a team I think Notre Dame should be super scared of. We're going to get more into them. They have a ton of newcomers. 5 of them are D1 transfers, but they are from Northern Illinois, Fordham, Fresno State, Washington, and East Carolina. So it's not like these are like Duke guys who transferred out of Duke who are going there. There's some high major type guys originally, but this isn't a team full of like guys who were super high level players elsewhere. A lot of those guys were spot minute guys wherever they were at and now have bigger roles. Last year, Cal State Northridge was 5-9 in their league and 9-13 overall. So it's not like there's some powerhouse in their league. Also, Trevor's going to talk about this more in a second, but led by Trent Johnson, former coach at LSU, Nevada, Stanford, TCU. First year with the team, and he actually just got started like very recently because the staff is under some NCAA investigation. I'd say their best player right now is probably Darius Brown. We haven't seen many of those transfers, but they're kind of steady point guard. Averaged like 10 points a game last year. Was like second or third team all league. And then lastly, for what I have, they don't really have much size down low. Could be a big game for Paul Atkinson to show off what he can do for Notre Dame fans. So, Trevor, you got anything about these guys? I know we'll have more about the high major teams on the schedule, but let's go into them a little bit more.
Truthfully, I think this new head coach, Trent Johnson, is probably one of the most interesting stories in all of college basketball. I don't think it's going to be talked about a lot. They are a small school and kind of probably going to shy away from like this whole Scott Gottfried situation. But you got a coach coming in who is a 3-time coach of the year, once for Nevada, once for Stanford, and once for LSU, to come out of retirement to take this. I don't think that happens every day. I think it'd be a really cool story, even if he can kind of get them to ride the ship a little bit. You know, like that's just super impressive. I'm pretty sure all fans and coaches in this game can like kind of tip their cap to Trent Johnson for taking this on. I don't know if that means he's gonna like come back into coaching in general or what, but like regardless, I think that's still pretty impressive. He literally took the team over after summer, so they missed all of summer practices as a group, which obviously is crucial. They have a lot of new players, which is also really tough. The one thing I did get to pick up on Trent Johnson is his teams are usually notorious for defense. Granted, he did get to recruit those teams and stuff like that, but when they come out and play us, I'm assuming that they'll come out with an edge, try to prove everybody wrong. So I'm actually kind of excited to see how we take on that because I'm sure they're going to come out swinging.
Yeah, I would almost expect them to look like teams kind of looked at the beginning of last year with like the COVID summer from last year, because that's essentially what they had. Like, sure. They could be playing some really ugly basketball if Trent Johnson got them into shape. Right. So if they look good against Notre Dame or even put up a fight, that's a big testament to Trent Johnson. So definitely a really interesting group, especially all the transfers that he brought in and all the transfers that left when the investigation started. So, but we're here to talk more about Notre Dame. So let's get into kind of what to watch for. I'll start. Number one, been the biggest storyline all offseason. How well will Notre Dame defend against the Division I opponent? They looked really good against – I don't know if they looked really good, but the stats and everything look really good. Mm-hmm. And I heard a lot of good things about Notre Dame in the scrimmage or the exhibition games. Get in trouble for saying scrimmages. But I heard they looked a little lazy at times, but overall just two good defensive performances. So let's see it against a real D1 opponent in a real game. Trevor, I'll go to you for another thing to watch for.
Well, I think you're right in saying that, though. Like, you do got to start somewhere. So it is good to hear that they even had pretty good performances in these exhibitions. My big things that I'm going to watch for, it is also on defense as well, is who is going to guard D. Brown. And then their second leading scorer coming back from last season is Lance Coleman. So I want to see who guards these two guys and how well they do it.
Yeah, for sure. My second thing is the newcomers. I think maybe I stole that one from you because that's a pretty big one. But Paul Atkinson and Blake Wesley are going to get big minutes in this game. Maybe we'll see a little bit of JR because it's a smaller team. So I think they might play that matchup rather than the Elijah Taylor matchup. But Taylor could go in and bruise a little bit down low because he has the same size as their big men. So the newcomers are obviously what we're looking for. Even Elijah Taylor's a newcomer. So in any new season, that's the case, but especially this year with all the expectations and hype around Blake and Atkinson. I have one more after this. You have anything else, or should we get to that one?
Actually, Elijah Taylor was my second one. I think that backup big man role is the one we've kind of talked about almost every podcast now. And apparently Elijah Taylor's the one who's got the edge over Zona, so I'm incorrect, of course. But anyways, I'm excited to see what he can come out and do. I think he's honestly, this is his kind of game. I like the way he played in the first exhibition. The second one was a little shaky. I heard he had some bad fouls, different things like that. Turnovers, I think, something like that as well. So, like, hopefully he kind of brings it back around, puts his best foot forward and comes out in this first one and shows what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, if he's in there against this team, I think he could have a big night. I mean, he had 7 rebounds against Nazareth, so yeah, he could definitely do that against these guys. Their tallest guy is 6'9", which we're going to get into in a second. But, like, this is a tailor-made matchup. You hear that?
Yeah.
Tailor-made matchup for Elijah Taylor to have a big night. But I could also see him going with JR just to get some more scoring, get him experience. Maybe they play both at some point. But the last thing I have was – how many touches do they designate for Paul Atkinson in the post? That's something that I think they did a nice job of in the exhibitions, kind of looking for him, and it seems like they've done a nice job in the preseason overall looking for him down there. So let's see it in the real game when the lights are on, even though it's not a big opponent. And then lastly, I have how healthy is Trey Wirtz. It's just something to watch for because he's kind of had a nagging injury the whole preseason. He should be fine, though. He didn't drive to the basket like at all in the second game, the second scrimmage that Notre Dame played, which was his first though. So I'll definitely be watching to see how he looks and if he looks healthy. So Trevor, you got anything else to watch for or anything you're hoping to see?
Yes, first off, I am super impressed by your tailor-made reference. I mean, you are just good at what you do, dude. Like, it's an honor to work with you. No, actually, we didn't even plan this, man. But you went how you look to see how many touches they get to Paul, which is obviously super important. We've touched on that many times. Getting him
We're good
involved and
one too.
involved early.
Touched on that.
What's up?
You said we touched on that, and how many?
Not in this podcast. In previous ones.
No, you don't get the reference. You don't get your own.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
How many touches is Paul Atkinson gonna get? And you said we touched on that.
See, I'm just that good that I don't even pay attention.
Today.
But anyways, so like obviously getting Paul involved early is gonna open everything up. I think he can have a big night as well. The thing I want to see is how well we can get Nate open and where he kind of fits into this whole thing. You know, I had the big predictions for him this year to lead the team in scoring and to me just take his game to another level and rebounding and all sorts of things like that. I know I mentioned him taking people off the dribble. I just want to see what he comes out and does in this first matchup. I know Bray said he's his best when the offense is flowing because he's one of those guys where it's like kick, find Nate, or in transition, find Nate. I mean, things like that where he can set his feet or walk into an open three. I mean, things like that. So that's what I'm looking for.
For sure. Now onto the matchups to watch. You can go first. I think we probably have the same ones. I have two, so I'll just pick whichever one you don't have.
Well, my assumption is that Cormac is going to guard Brown to start the game off. I kind of went based off of that. I want to see what Cormac does against him because I think for them to be successful, he's going to have to them to be successful, Brown's going to have to pick up his scoring. So if Cormac can stop him, I think we kind of take the win out of their sails right out of the gate. So.
Yeah, I had Hub/Cormac versus Darius Brown because Darius Brown is the engine of their team. He's going to be the guy who kind of makes things flow for them, even if he's not scoring. Like, even if Cormac shuts him down, Brown's going to be the guy who's getting stuff going, and likewise with Prentice Hub. So that's a big one. And then the other one I have is Paul Atkinson versus their big men. Their tallest guy is 6'9", and I think their second tallest is 6'7". So it's not like these guys are on the same level as Paul Atkinson in terms of size. Actually, their second tallest player is 6'6". So Paul Atkinson could have a huge night here if he gets the proper amount of touches and then is on his game. Atkinson's probably so much better than the guys they have down there. I'm assuming since it's a mid-major team. Their 6'9" guy is a grad student who was a transfer, so I assume he's old and he could probably give Atkinson a little bit of a challenge. Still, I expect Atkinson to have a big night. And if Notre Dame blows him out, obviously the three-point shooting and stuff is the big thing with Notre Dame in the past few years, but where they're going to make that big difference is down low with Paul Atkinson. So that's what we have for the matchups. And my leading scorer, I think that made it pretty clear. Paul Atkinson's going to be on just I think that's where the biggest difference is in terms of matchups. You have the same thing, or you got somebody else?
No, I actually have Paul Atkinson as well. For everything you just listed, I think he's proven that he can score in the Ivy League at a pretty consistent level and at a pretty good clip. So I do believe that he can take that and do what he will against this team as well. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, the biggest difference between an ACC team and a mid-major team is the big men and the size. So Atkinson is definitely going to make things look different down there as opposed to what Cal State Northridge has. So going into the score prediction, the final thing, the most anticipated part, I guess, we're gonna go with a different method this year, whether Notre Dame covers or doesn't cover, because I think that's a little more accurate than saying Notre Dame is going to win 76-72. Not a huge fan of that method anymore. But the spread for Cal State Northridge USC tomorrow night is 24.5. I think Notre Dame is on the same level as USC, maybe even a little bit better. So I'm going to say it's 25 for that. I'm going to say they won't cover that. I'd be a lot more comfortable if it was something around 15, even is a little iffy for me. But I think Notre Dame's going to still win this game handily. 25 for Notre Dame, a team that has big defensive issues and didn't blow a whole lot of teams out last year is a little shaky for me. But 10-15, I think, is where this game will end up. And let me preface this by saying we're not supporting gambling or whatever. It's a good measuring stick with the spread. Yeah. So, Trevor, I'll go to you. What's your score prediction or range?
I'd agree with you. I'd say it's going to be less than 25 if that's where we're going to go off of. I picture it kind of being more in that 15 to 20 range. I would side with you almost in saying 10 to 15, but I think that there's one thing we are really good at, it's offense, and the fact that they've missed all their summer practices, all these new guys, a lot going on just within that team in itself. I think they'll come out and it'll be probably close in the first half. Like I said, I think they're going to come out swinging and stuff like that. But if we are hitting and our offense is clicking, Paul's doing his thing, I think they might be a team that kind of folds early just because they're still coming together and all that kind of stuff. So I think with that being said, I'll take like that 15 to 20 range.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the only thing that's a little concerning to me is that they're kind of old with all those transfers, but those guys were role players, if that, at their old school. So it's not like these guys are Notre Dame level players, and they didn't have an off season together, and et cetera. So I think Notre Dame's going to win this game handily, and you do too. So we will be back for the post game show. Well, actually, Trevor will be. I had something come up and won't be able to. So Trevor will be coming to you post game. I know that's super disappointing. You get Trevor instead of me, but I will be.
I appreciate you letting me take the reins, man.
Yep. It's your big opportunity, but I got the
Mama, I made it. So
there you go. But I got the High Point post game Wednesday, and we'll have a show probably next Monday, kind of going over this game and then next week's games as well. So thank you guys for watching. Go Irish.